I want to get into your specialty, right? The Los Angeles Lakers. Last night, just an absolute embarrassment versus their rival, right? Their little brother, essentially, without Kawhi. And did Paul George play either? Neither one of them played, and they looked outclassed. What's going on there, and where do we go from here?
Well, listen, the Lakers can say that they view themselves as still, having a chance at this. Mathematically, they're in the play-in for now. But to me, that looks like a team that is completely let go of the rope. They can summon these spurts of energy. They had a 14-0 run at the end of the second quarter to get within 3 at halftime, and then promptly got outscored 26-2 at the start of the second half. They can't defend anybody. They don't have consistent enough offense. And LeBron is putting up numbers, man, and he looks the part. But at this point, you got to think LeBron is sort of just kind of eyeing Kareem's record and trying to basically, bank points while he can, because I don't think anybody has any belief that this Lakers team is going to be able to make noise if they even make the play-in. So I view this as a team that is completely fractured and knows their fate. I mean, you won't say they've given up necessarily, but I think that this is going downhill fast. They've lost 4 in a row. I just have a hard time seeing them really gaining any momentum. Anthony Davis is out for weeks still. And listen, they didn't just lose to a Clippers team without Kawhi or Paul George. They also don't have Norman Powell. So they're arguably their 3 best players, although Reggie Jackson makes the case for that. They're all out. The Clippers are playing a bunch of guys who, they're young guys, they're scrappy, they care, and they want to beat the Lakers. They take pride in that matchup. And the Lakers have lost 7 straight to the Clippers going back to last year. I just don't see a team that has any spirit or fight. And I don't know that they even really want to be in the play-in, because, listen, if they miss the play-in and they say, listen, we were just banged up all year, we had injuries, we just never got a chance. LeBron, AD, and Russ only played 18 games together. That kind of passes the smell test better than, hey, we finally got healthy for the play-in, and then we went and got smacked by New Orleans in the first game and our season was over. So I don't even know if they want to be in the play-in at this point.
Speaking with Bill Oram from The Athletic, Lakers beat writer, how foreign is it to LeBron? You cover him to see this, because he's always been the type of guy, and maybe, Father Time has finally taken its toll, even though he's having an amazing numbers year. But everywhere he went, no matter what, he was able to, regardless of talent on the basketball team, find ways to make this team competitive, make his team competitive, make them winners. And this year, for whatever reason, how foreign is it to him to see this play out the way it is?
Well, it's unprecedented. And I tried to ask him something about that last night, kind of the idea that he's playing at such a high level, he's scoring at a pretty remarkable pace. I think this is the most he's scored in a season since the year before the decision when he went to Miami. But the thing that you have to understand, they're not just not winning at a high level. This is, you called it an embarrassment. They are getting blown out night after night by teams that really have no business blowing them out. This is not like a month ago when they got blown out by Milwaukee and LeBron said kind of famously we're not on their level. This was a Clippers team that more or less should be on their level. They're 8th and 9th in the West. They're kind of in the same zone, potentially a play-in opponent. They're in the same tier of the West. And the Lakers were just roundly outclassed. And LeBron said last night, they're the better team. We're at a point where LeBron can just flatly, emotionlessly, uncontroversially declare the team that is one spot ahead of them in the standings as the better team, and nobody even flinches at this point. And so, how foreign is it to LeBron? He's never been here. But I also think, you look at some of the teams that he carried into the playoffs, he didn't have to really accommodate someone like Russell Westbrook. There is right now this really bad fit with Russell Westbrook where you've got a guy who needs the ball to be effective, but when he has the ball, he is hurting the team because the ball is inherently not in LeBron James's hands. Russ's turnovers are way down, which I actually view as more of an indictment of the way he's playing as opposed to a positive, because that means he's not being himself. Last night was actually one of his better games, and he still was, not a particularly productive presence, terrible defensively. But LeBron has to sort of try to accommodate Russell Westbrook because he's the highest paid player on the team. He's the starting point guard. And I actually asked Frank last night, Frank Vogel, if, because Russ did this thing that he has done where he lamented that his role changes every single night. And that's something that's been true of almost everyone on this team because of the injuries and the fact they've started 31 different lineups in 62 games. But, Russ made it about how his role has changed every single night. And I asked Frank about that, and he said, well, we coach the whole team, blah, blah, blah. And so then I said, well, look, have you considered, this is something that gets talked about, like, is bringing Russ off the bench a possibility? And I think it's telling that he did not dismiss it. He didn't say yes, but he said, we've talked about everything. And the fact that you've got a guy making $45 million and the possibility of benching him is in play, or at the very least has been part of your coaches' meetings, really tells you about what a problem the Russell Westbrook acquisition has been, and not just for the coaching staff, but I think for LeBron James as well. So it's unprecedented for LeBron to be in this situation, but he has a co-star or a partner out there that is dragging the team down. Cement shoes.
Do you think AD is coming back this year, and should LeBron shut it down?
I think it remains to be seen on both those fronts. I think there's a scenario that AD doesn't come back, but I do think, listen, this is a guy who's been injured a lot, is sensitive to the talk about being injured and sensitive to the talk about not being tough. I think, he's going to want to get out there unless the season is just completely gone. If they're still even within reach of the play-in, I think he'll want to come back. LeBron is a little more complicated because there is the personal pursuit, right? He's going to pass Karl Malone this season, in the next few weeks on the all-time scoring list and to move to number 2. There is something to be said for not just limping past Kareem Abdul-Jabbar's mark, but kind of blowing the doors off of it. So I think that he wants to get as many points under his belt as he can. But if you get to 5 or 6 games left, you're way out of the play-in, I could see LeBron shutting it down.
Hey, you watched all the way to the end. Thanks for that. Watch more right here.